Would you believe me if I told you someone has to die for your dreams to live? Not in some dramatic or fictional way, but in a way that's raw and undeniable. Since the beginning of time, from ancient temples to hidden rituals, every civilization understood something we've forgotten. The universe doesn't respond to desire. It responds to sacrifice. We've been conditioned to think sacrifice is negative, that it means suffering, that means loss. But what if the real truth is that sacrifice is the only doorway to power? What if manifestation isn't about wishing, but about giving something up? The universe doesn't deal in free gifts. It moves on exchange. What you receive is a direct result of what you release. You give to get. You let go to allow. You die to be reborn. This is why most people never manifest what they desire. They hope. They visualize. But they hold on. They want change while clinging to the very version of themselves that's been blocking all along. Every breath is a trade. You inhale, you must exhale. You hold on, you must let go. You're always making deals with reality, whether you know it or not. And the unconscious trades are the most dangerous ones, because they happen without awareness. You're trading your time, your energy, your attention. You're always paying. And what you focus on is what you fund. The universe doesn't deal in money. It responds to your attention, your emotion, and your conviction. You might think you're stuck, but in truth, you're simply stuck in an identity that no longer serves you. One you've outgrown, but are still protecting. And here's the hard part. That identity must die. That version of you must be sacrificed. Not gently, not gradually, but fully. You've known this version of yourself for a long time. It's carried your fears, your habits, your excuses. It's gotten you this far, but it cannot take you where you're going. That version of you doesn't have the capacity to hold your future. And the longer you cling to it, the longer you delay your destiny. You must make a conscious decision to let go of who you are, to step into who you're becoming. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Yes, it might feel like death, because in a way it is. All transformation begins with loss. The caterpillar must dissolve to become the butterfly. The seed must crack to become the tree. The old self must collapse to make room for the new. This is the path of all great change. This is the hidden truth behind every success, every breakthrough, every quantum leap. Something was sacrificed. Time, energy, identity, comfort. But in return came something greater. If you want to rise, you must release. If you want to create, you must clear space. If you want to become, you must let go of what you've been. Nothing just happens. All manifestations are built on the back of sacrifice. You don't get what you want. You get what you're aligned with. And alignment requires action, discipline, and surrender. You can't stay the same and expect things around you to shift. You must give up who you are for who you're meant to be. That's the real test. That's the real cost. And that's the real freedom. You got to stop feeding the version of you that's keeping you in loops. Every time you give attention to a thought that's not aligned, you're funding your past. Every time you entertain a belief that contradicts your vision, you're sacrificing your future for your comfort. And this is the paradox. Sacrifice doesn't take away from you. It multiplies you. It's the highest form of faith. When you let something go, you're telling the universe, I trust you to return something greater. That's power. That's knowing. So the question becomes, were you willing to give up? Were you willing to outgrow? Were you willing to stop being? If you're honest with yourself, you already know the answer. You already know what needs to go. You already know the habits, the patterns, the distractions, the people, the mindset. You've always known. And now it's time to decide. Will you cling or will you climb? Will you hold on or will you rise? Will you stay who you've been or will you become who you're here to be? No one can do it for you. No one can walk this for you. But the moment you choose to sacrifice the version of you that's been surviving, the version of you that's been settling, the version of you that's been playing small, that's the moment life begins to bend. This is your moment. The door is open. And what's waiting on the other side isn't just a better life. It's a new self, a higher frequency, a reality that matches your destiny. And all it asks of you is everything you've been pretending to be. So make the trade. Sacrifice who you are to become who you were always meant to be. You see, sacrifice is not something you do once and walk away from. It's something you become. It's a lifestyle, a way of moving, a way of being. Because every single day, life is offering you a choice. Keep feeding the old self or step into the higher one. And let me tell you something that most won't. That old version of you, it's addicted to you. It knows how to whisper to you when you're tired. It knows how to flood your thoughts when you're about to level up. It knows exactly what emotional bait to throw when you're close to the breakthrough. It'll come back dressed as boredom, as laziness, as fear. It'll disguise itself in the voice of your inner critic. It'll say things like, "That's too risky," or "This ain't you," or "You've tried this before." It'll use your own past against you, because the past is the only weapon the false self has. But here's where you become dangerous. When you stop negotiating with the old identity. When you recognize its voice and say, "Not today. That's not me anymore." That's when a shift begins. Because the real power isn't in becoming someone else. The real power is in remembering who you've always been underneath all the programming. You were never weak. You were never small. You were never here to blend in. You were just surrounded by people who couldn't see your potential. And over time, you started believing the lie that you had to dim to survive. That's the real tragedy. Not failure, not rejection, but becoming a stranger to your own soul. And that's why sacrifice is necessary. Not to punish you, but to cleanse you, to strip away everything false, to bring you back home. Sacrifice is sacred. It's a purification, letting go of who you're not so you can finally meet who you are. You see, people think manifestation is magic, but the truth is it's math. Subtract what doesn't belong. Add what does. Multiply what's working. Divide your energy wisely. It's not about wishing. It's about wiring. Your brain, your body, your energy. All of it has to be rewired to match the reality you say you want. And wiring takes repetition, discipline, intention, not just once, every day. Because what you do daily is what you become permanently. So if you want to live in a new reality, you have to die to the one you've settled for. That means dying to the habit of waiting. Dying to the belief that something outside of you is coming to save you. Dying to the stories that say you're not ready, not good enough, not worthy. Those stories are not facts. They're loops. And loops only break when you decide to stop spinning in circles. You do that by choosing. Clearly, powerfully, consistently. And every time you choose the higher version, the old one loses power. It shrinks. It fades. Not instantly, but over time. And here's what happens when the shift starts to settle in. The world outside begins to rearrange. The people, the places, the patterns, all of it begins to mirror the new frequency you're anchored in. Because life is not happening to you. It's happening from you. You're the signal, and reality is the response. So if you want different outcomes, you don't beg reality to change. You change the signal you're sending out. And the signal comes from your identity, the one you're either feeding or sacrificing. This is the part most avoid, because it requires responsibility. And responsibility is uncomfortable when you spent most of your life outsourcing your power. But hear me clearly. Comfort is the greatest thief of your evolution. It keeps you surviving, but never thriving. It keeps you entertained, but never expanded. It keeps you safe, but never satisfied. If you want more from life, you have to be willing to leave comfort behind. You have to be willing to stretch, to be alone for a season, to be misunderstood for a while, to walk through uncertainty with unshakable clarity. That is the sacrifice, not the external things, but the internal attachments. You need to be liked. You need to be certain. You need to control every outcome. Those are the chains, and they're disguised as personality, as self-preservation, as logic. But deep down, you know the truth. You weren't built for average. You weren't designed to shrink into safety. There's a fire inside of you that's been whispering, sometimes screaming, that you're made for more. But here's the harsh truth. The fire can't rise until you remove the fuel of fear. So how do you do it? You face yourself. You stop running. You stop numbing. You stop avoiding. And you start deciding. You decide what you want with full conviction. You decide who you're becoming with full clarity. You decide what you're no longer tolerating from yourself, from others, from life. And then you walk. Not talk. Not post. Not perform. You walk. You walk the path of transformation daily, quietly, consistently, privately, and eventually, reality has no choice but to bow to the version of you that refuses to bend. That's when doors open. That's when people show up. That's when synchronicity becomes your normal. Because the universe is not testing you. It's waiting on you. Waiting for you to stop sending mixed signals. Waiting for you to stop living in contradiction. Waiting for you to become congruent, inside and out. Once you align with the version of you who already lives the life you desire, the world around you will begin to reflect that back with terrifying accuracy. But until then, you'll stay in limbo. Not because you're cursed, but because you're undecided. So choose. Choose to rise. Choose to release. Choose to remember. And most of all, choose to sacrifice everything that no longer serves the next level of your evolution. This is the real initiation, the inner alchemy, the unseen fire that forges legends. This is the path of the becoming, the path of truth, the path of Soknor. Not everyone will take it, but the few who do, they don't just manifest a new reality. They become it. And so now I ask you, not just as a listener, but as a mirror, what part of you must be laid to rest, so the rest of you can finally come alive? You know the answer. Now go and become it. If this message stirred something in you, if it reminded you of the power that's been quietly waiting within, then don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, so the signal grows. Comment below with the part that spoke to your spirit. Share it with someone who's ready to evolve. And if you're walking this path of clarity, freedom, and becoming, subscribe to Soknor so you never miss a message meant for you. Your presence, your energy, your support, it all matters more than you know. Let's keep building something timeless together. Until next time, stay clear, stay true, and keep becoming who you were always meant to be.